Okay, so now that we've broken down the color wheel and the effects of warm and cool toned colors, let's get into what colors actually mean to our brains. Over the entirety of human history, we have developed associated reactions to colors based on both our learned survival instincts and our cultural contexts. So, let's get into the different colors and their meanings. Red has been correlated with danger, strength, passion, and confidence, depending on its context. In nature, red is often a warning sign, seen in plants, animals, and also even our blood. Because of this, it immediately calls your brain into action, making you more alert. If you want a color that is sure to draw your viewer's attention and get an immediate response, red could be just what you need. Another important thing to note about red is that it can actually cause a physical reaction as well. Studies have shown that red can increase hunger in its viewers. This is one of the main reasons that you will see red used in the logos of so many popular food chains. These graphic designers knew exactly what they were doing with this. So, to make an area of your illustration really stand out, go with red. It's sure to get a reaction. Okay, let's move on to orange. This color evokes an energetic, playful, creative, and powerful feeling in its viewers' minds. It can often be seen used in the logos of new tech companies, as its youthful vibe gives the idea of things being very modern. You might have noticed that 21 Draw uses orange on our website to draw attention to specific areas and create excitement. Because of these reasons, orange can be a great color for conveying a fresh, often nostalgic vibe in your art. Since orange is bright and contains a lot of red in it, it is also sure to stand out in your work. Yellow is a powerfully cheerful color that should be used sparingly in your art. Because it is so bright and bold, it has the tendency to be overpowering depending on how you use it. When it comes to symbolism, yellow is often associated with hope and spontaneity. When you are choosing your colors, it is also important to consider who your audience is. This is especially true for yellow, as its connotations wildly differ depending on your cultural context. In some parts of South America and the Middle East, it is considered a color of mourning, whereas in other areas of the world, it is associated with wealth and happiness. Because of this, the way in which you depict this color in your art is going to depend on your personal context. Green, on the other hand, is almost universally associated with health, new life, and stability. Think of a nice spring day. New plants are sprouting and nature is thriving all around you. Throughout history, the color green has been intrinsically linked with hope and prosperity. This is a great color to use in artworks when you are aiming for a positive, natural, and even sometimes a more sophisticated vibe. Blue is a color that evokes feelings of cool and calm. Depending on how it is used, it can also create a sense of melancholy in your work, especially if it is the main color in your piece. Due to its overall calming effect, blue is associated with trustworthiness, and this is something that many brands take advantage of in their logos and marketing. Blue's positive symbolism is primarily due to its role in nature. Think of the clear sky or the ocean. Both of these things are known to have a relaxing effect on the human brain. Next up is purple. Purple is the color of elegance, loyalty, and luxury. It can also carry an air of mystery, which can make it a great addition to illustrations with fantasy elements. Historically, purple has been associated with wealth due to purple pigments being rare at the time. Though this is no longer really the case in the current world, purple still maintains some of the symbolism. So, let's recap. Red can symbolize danger, strength, passion, and confidence. Orange can symbolize creativity, playfulness, and youth. Yellow can symbolize happiness and wealth, but it is also sometimes associated with mourning. Green can symbolize stability and prosperity. Blue can symbolize relaxation and trustworthiness. And purple can symbolize elegance, loyalty, and luxury. For your assignment in this lesson, we are going to take what you've learned about color symbolism and apply it to a character design. For this, I want you to create a short 2 to 3 sentence character description and a mood board to go with it, of about maybe 10 to 15 images. You can pick any color you'd like, just remember to include information about your character's personality and context. For this lesson's assignment, I have chosen the color green to represent my character. To start things off, I like to assess the symbolism of my chosen color and think of which traits I would like to apply to my character. For me, I've chosen to go with hope and new life. I then like to look at ways that I can apply this to my character's personality. So in this way, I'd like to use hope to represent my character's optimism and new life to represent my character's youthfulness. Once I have these basic personality traits down, I can then move on to more basic contextual information about my character. For example, their gender and age. For my character, I have chosen to design a female who is 21 years of age. I have chosen a relatively young age because I want this to show the youthfulness of my character and how it's associated with the color green. I then like to move on to time period, location, and occupation. For my character, I want them loosely based in the Victorian era because I'm interested in the fashion styles and painting styles from this time period. However, I want my character to have a bit of a fantasy element, so they will not be 100% based in this time period. It will just be a rough guide for the design of my character. For their occupation, my character is unemployed and from a wealthy background. I have chosen this because I want my character to be able to have a kind of frivolous, over-the-top costume that really shows their youthfulness, and I also think it's fitting for the time period. To summarize all of this information into 2 sentences that describe my character, I have written, this green-based character is young and optimistic. Though her favorite activity is gardening, she spends most of her time preparing for and attending social events. I feel like this encapsulates my character well without going too into depth and restricting my design choices. So let's move on to creating our mood board. To create my mood boards for my character designs, I like to use Pinterest. I just find that it's the easiest way to put together all my images quickly and efficiently. And if I ever want to go back and add more images to my mood board, I can simply search them up and add them. I like to create a separate mood board for my different projects. And to do this, what you do is click this drop-down arrow on one of the images in your search, and then select Create Mood Board from the drop-down list. You then type in the name that you want for your mood board. For me, that will be Green Character. And then you press Create. So the first thing I like to do is scroll through different costume ideas for my character and add them to my mood board. For example, I really like the shape of this dress here. I've actually already created a mood board for this character, so let me walk you through it a little bit. The very first thing that I searched up to do with my character was simply the color green and imagery associated with it. As you can see, the color green has been really associated with different intricate details that can be found in nature, and I want to put some of this influence into my costume design for my character, with frills and other intricate details that will help show their personality. Once I've looked at the basic associations from the color of my choice, I then move on to looking at costume details. This is one of the first places I like to start with a character design because I feel getting an idea for their costume is the best way to start visualizing who they are as a character. I looked at a lot of different frilly, kind of over-the-top dresses. I noticed that they had a quite cinched waist in a lot of Victorian era clothing, and I used this as a guide for my costume design in the final illustration. I then looked at lots of different hair from the era, including a trend which was to have really, really long hair, and another trend which was to have different headpieces or large hats with feathers and other details. I wasn't quite sure about the long hair for this character. I felt that they might have something more like an updo. So then I moved on to some of the influences that I have recently seen in the show Bridgerton, which I have been enjoying watching at the moment. In the prequel for Bridgerton, Queen Charlotte has a really nice updo, and it's something that I kind of want to incorporate into my character design. To finish things off, I look at different poses that I would like for my character, and additionally to that, I also look at different accessories and jewelry that I think might suit them as well. So, once you have a mood board like this, you'll be ready to move on to the next lesson. I'll see you there.